What's going on, guys? Today we're looking at Cincinnati Basketball here ahead of the 2024-25 season. And it'll be Coach Wes Miller's fourth season at the helm. And I think he's got a really good roster heading into this season. A lot of sites have them in their top 25, their preseason top 25, and I think justifiably so. They bring back a lot of guys from last year, which was a solid team, but not necessarily a great team. They went 22-5 in their 22-15. It's a big difference. In their second year in the Big 12, they were 7-11, which was 11th in the Big 12. They did go 2-1 in the Big 12 tournament, catching Kansas at the right time there before losing to Baylor. And they went 2-1 in the NIT tournament. So they were 11-2 in non-conference play, 7-11 in the Big 12. So they had a 18-13 regular season record, which is just shy of the bubble, right? They needed a few more wins in the Big 12 play to get them into the tournament, and that's what we're going to find out if the changes on this year's roster will help them get there. So who's gone, who's back, and who's new for Cincinnati? So who's gone? I would say the two big losses are Victor Lakin, who went to Clemson as a big man. He'll be important for Clemson this season. John Newman also ran out of eligibility. He played a lot of minutes for Cincinnati last season. And those were two key rotation players, along with Jamil Reynolds, who was part of the rotation, but not necessarily a big part, as another big who transferred to University of South Florida. So you've got three rotation players gone, but really, two guys that you got to replace substantially. And before we get into how they replace those two guys, it's important to go over who's back. Their leading scorer last season, Dan Skillings, is back. So is Simas Lukosius, who is a great shooter on the wing. Day Thomas, their point guard, is back. Their six-man, Jizzle James, who's a lot of fun to watch, is also back, along with their big man, Aziz Bandago. And CJ Frederick is back. He had an interesting season last year. He wasn't healthy most of the season, played like half of the games. So we'll see how he fits into the team this season and what is going to be, I think, his sixth year in college basketball. He's been around. So who's new? Well, they brought in Dylan Mitchell from Texas, who's a very intriguing player as a 6'8 forward. Not a great shooter, but very athletic, can rebound, and can defend. Arrington Page was brought in from USC as a 6'11 big who can play as a power forward. But I see him more as a center who can space the floor. Well, as of right now, that's more theoretical than anything. Played about 10 minutes per game for USC. Averaged 3 points, 2 rebounds. Connor Hickman was brought in from Bradley. Really good shooter, averaged 14 points per game. Made more than 2 threes per game on 40% shooting from behind the arc. And then they brought in two Tylers as freshmen, Tyler Betsy and Tyler McKinley, who are both 6'8". Betsy was a higher ranked player, 52nd, while McKinley was 88th on 24/7 Sports. So they brought in a good amount of talent to replace what was lost. They brought in a guard in Hickman to replace Newman, and then two bigs to replace the minutes from Victor Lakin. So, I like what they did in the offseason. That's why I was wanting to profile this team, because I think they've got a chance to be an NCAA tournament team. And when I started to look at their projected lineup and rotation, it was a little bit difficult. I didn't watch a ton of Cincinnati games last season. They weren't the best team. I didn't catch too many games, big games for them. But looking at the numbers, remembering, the couple of games I did see of them, it was interesting to fill out their lineup, because like Jizzle James, for example, he had two really big scoring performances in the two games he started in the NIT last season. But I don't think he's going to start this season. I think Coach Wes Miller has a lot of faith in Day Thomas. So I got him starting along with Dan Skillings and Simas Lukosius in, I guess, the backcourt, or those guys are more wings in Skillings and Lukosius. I have Dylan Mitchell starting at the 4. I think he is going to provide a level of athleticism that they didn't have necessarily last season, especially with somebody his size. And then Aziz Bandago, I think, is your starting center. So I think Jizzle James returns that 6-man role, at least to start the season. Connor Hickman, I think, is also going to be a key player for them off the bench with his shooting. And then Arrington Page and C.J. Frederick are going to be in the rotation. And then I think either Tyler Betsy or Tyler McKinley will round out the rotation. I'm not sure which one. Didn't watch them in high school, so that'll be something I'll be watching to see how Coach Miller rounds out his rotation. Now, schedule and predictions. So non-conference play, they've got 4 significant non-conference matchups that I saw here. Starting with the road games with Georgia Tech and Villanova, followed by a home game against Xavier, their in-state rival. Those games are always fun. And a neutral site game with Dayton. So, conference play, home and away in the Big 12, one of the two most difficult conferences in college basketball. In these home and away games, they'll have Utah, West Virginia, Baylor, Kansas State, and BYU. And at home, they'll take on Arizona, Arizona State, Kansas, Texas Tech, and TCU, while going on the road to play Colorado, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Houston, and UCF. Excuse me. How do I see this season unfolding for Cincinnati? I think they're going to go 9-2 in non-conference. I think they've got a lot of winnable games. I think the road games with Georgia Tech and Villanova are going to be tough. And then the in-state rival games are always kind of things happen that aren't necessarily expected, especially with a big rival like Xavier. And then Dayton, is even an in-state opponent as well. So 9-2, I could see it being 8-3, but I'm going to go 9-2. And I do think they're a better team than last year. And so I got them, and especially because it's their second year in the conference, I think that's going to help. With a lot of guys returning, there's much more familiarity for them. I got them going 11-9, which gives them a regular season record of 20-11. And I think that's going to be good enough to get them in the NCAA tournament. I don't think that's going to be a bubble team. The reason being is because I think playing in the Big 12, you get a lot of opportunities to get those quad 1 wins and quad 2 wins, and their strength of schedule is good. Now, the one thing that does hurt them and does hurt my case for them not being on the bubble with a 20-11 record is their non-conference schedule is not very strong. So I could see that argument going both ways. Really strong conference, but not so much non-conference. So 2011, I do think gets them in the tournament. I'm curious, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, all those great YouTube things. Share this with your friends. It helps us grow. We're going to be doing college basketball and NBA draft content here on Talking Ball. I'm Jack. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.